He was supposed to get engaged in 4 hours. Instead, he was standing in the rain with a bleeding Nigerian girl in his arms. Her blood was on his shirt. Her hand was twisted in his tie. And Kang Min-jae, the cold heir his family trusted to never embarrass them, had already ruined the night. The hotel lights burned gold behind him. The rain kept falling, hard, sharp, mean enough to make the driveway shine like black glass. A black umbrella appeared over his shoulder. His bodyguard. "Sir." Min-jae did not look up. The girl was half-conscious, young, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with trying. Braids loosed, yellow dress soaked dark at the waist, one heel missing, one hand pressed over the wound in her side, like she had been holding herself together by force. She moved once, barely. Then her fingers tightened in his tie. "Oh, don't let them take my bag." Her voice was thin. Breath, not sound. Then her eyes closed again. Min-jae's gaze lifted. If you love stories with danger, longing, and the kind of romance that starts with one impossible moment, subscribe now. Because this story does not slow down. Across the street, near the side gate, a black van pulled away too fast. He saw the driver first, then the plate, then nothing. "Find it," he said. His bodyguard was already speaking into his earpiece. Min-jae slid one arm beneath her knees and lifted her fully. She was too light, too warm. People in the hotel entrance froze when they saw him coming. Staff, security, one of his mother's assistants. No one stopped him. They knew better than to ask questions when Min-jae's face looked like that. The assistant hurried forward anyway. "Sir, your mother is asking for you. The Yu family has arrived." Min-jae kept walking. "Then she should greet them." "Sir, your grandfather specifically said—" He stopped, turned just enough for the assistant to see his eyes. The woman fell silent immediately. Good. He walked past the marble lobby, past the chandeliers, past the family who had come to discuss a future he had never wanted. Rainwater dripped from his cuffs. Blood marked the floor behind him. His uncle, Kang Min-seok, stepped out from the private dining hall just in time to see the girl in Min-jae's arms. That interested Min-jae, because his uncle never looked surprised. Not really, but there it was, a flicker. Gone fast. "Min-jae," the older man said smoothly. "What happened?" Min-jae did not slow down. Something outside. His uncle's eyes dropped to the girl's face, then to the blood, then to the tie wrapped in her hand. It was a small look, but Min-jae saw too much to miss it. Not concern. Recognition. That was enough to make the night worse. The elevator doors opened, closed. Silence. Only then did Min-jae look down at the girl again. There was dirt on her wrist, a cut near her lip, and beneath her arm, trapped between her body and his chest, the torn strap of a black leather bag. He adjusted his grip slightly, kept the bag in place. When the elevator opened again, a private clinic was already waiting. Of course it was. Men like his family did not call ambulances unless they wanted witnesses. The doctor moved fast. 2 nurses took over. Min-jae let them. Only when his hands were empty did he notice the blood drying across his palms. "Knife wound," the doctor said. "Not deep enough to kill, deep enough to matter." "Will she live?" The doctor looked at him strangely. "Yes." Min-jae nodded once. That should have been enough. It wasn't. A nurse reached for the bag. The girl moved without waking, fast, wild. Her hand shot out and grabbed Min-jae's sleeve. "Don't!" The word scraped out of her. Then she sank again. The nurse pulled back. The room went quiet for 1 second. Min-jae took the bag himself and set it beside the bed, where she could reach it. The doctor noticed that too. Everyone noticed everything around men like him. An hour later, His phone had 19 missed calls. His mother, his grandfather, the Yu family, his uncle. He ignored all of them. He stood by the clinic window and watched the city turn slick and silver under the rain. Behind him, machines beeped softly. The girl breathed, still alive, still holding trouble even in sleep. He did not know her name. He did not know who chased her. He did not know why his uncle had looked at her like that. Then the bed moved. Sheets rustled. He turned. Her eyes were open now. Dark, clear, too alert for someone who had lost that much blood. She looked at him first, then the room, then the bag, then back at him. No fear. That was the first strange thing. The second was what she said. You. Her voice was rough, accusing, steady anyway. You're either the reason I'm here, a breath, or the reason I'm not dead. She did not scream. She did not ask where she was. She looked at the bag first, then at him, then at the door, calculating. That interested Min-jae more than fear would have. He stayed where he was, far enough not to corner her, close enough to stop something stupid. You haven't answered, she said. Her voice was dry, sharp. Did you bring me here? I brought you in from the rain. That is not the same answer. No. A beat. Then who stabbed me? I was hoping you would tell me. Her eyes narrowed. Good. Pain had not made her slow. She pushed herself up. Too fast. Pain hit immediately. Her face changed before she could hide it. Her hand flew to her side. Still, she kept going. Don't, Min-jae said. She ignored him, reached for the bag. Her fingers touched the strap. Only then did she breathe. Not fully. Just enough to keep going. She pulled it into her lap and unzipped it with the caution of someone expecting betrayal from objects, too. Passport first, phone second, a small notebook, then an envelope. Old, cream-colored, unfolded at the edges. That was the thing. Her whole body changed when she touched it. Min-jae saw it. Not relief. Not exactly. Something tighter. Something guarded. He filed that away. What is in it? She looked up too quickly. Nothing. So it was not nothing. Min-jae let the silence sit. People filled silence when they feared it. She did not. Interesting. What is your name? He asked instead. A pause. Then, Sade. He waited. She understood the question behind the question. Sade Adebayo. Nigerian. Yes. You were running. Yes. From who? She said nothing. Min-jae moved once, just enough to pick her torn shoe up from the floor where the nurse had dropped it earlier. He set it on the chair beside the bed. Small gesture, deliberate. Her eyes followed it, then returned to him. Why are you helping me? She asked. Oh, the answer came easily. Because someone tried to kill you outside my hotel. That got her attention. Your hotel. My family owns it. That made something flash across her face. Recognition. Not of him. Of the word family. Of the danger inside it. She looked at the envelope again. Then at the door. Then back at him. As if measuring which was worse. That was when Min-jae knew this was larger than street violence. Larger than theft. People did not weigh a room like that unless names mattered now. Who followed you? He asked again. Her laugh was small, bitter. You ask questions like a police officer. No. His voice stayed calm. Police officers ask after damage. I ask before the next one. That landed. She hated that it did. He saw that too. Good. The truth should be inconvenient. She lowered her eyes to the envelope in her hand. When she spoke, her voice was quieter. My father died 6 months ago. Min-jae said nothing. The room shifted on its own. He left this for me. She turned the envelope over once in her fingers. It looks like sketches, fabric notes, shipping records. But, she looked up, straight at him. But men do not chase women with knives for old paper. No. He stepped closer. Not much, just enough for the next question to matter. What's hidden in it? Sade's jaw tightened. For 1 second he thought she would lie again. Instead she said, "Account numbers." Minje's expression did not move. Inside, everything sharpened. Whose? I don't know all of them. You know one. That time she did not answer right away, which was answer enough. He watched her thumb press harder against the edge of the envelope. Not fear now. Decision. A dangerous things always arrived wearing that face. There was a company, she said slowly. Textiles on paper, imports, art shipping, West Africa to Seoul. My father worked with records. She swallowed once. Then he found things that did not match, payments that disappeared, containers that changed labels, girls who were listed as staff and never arrived anywhere. The clinic went very still. Even the machines seemed quieter. Minje's gaze locked on hers. And the Korean name? She stared at him. He watched the exact second she understood that he already knew there was one. Not the name, just the shape of it. Why would there be a Korean name? She asked. Because men with money hate doing ugly things alone. That was the wrong thing to say. Or maybe the right one. Because Said looked at him for a long moment after that. Really looked. Or not at the suit, not at the face, at the man. Then she said it. Softly, like dropping a knife on glass. Kang. Minje did not blink. She went on anyway, because now there was no safe way backward. The papers mention a Korean investor. A breath. One who cleaned money through shipping routes. Her grip tightened. The name was Kang Min-sok. This time the silence was different. Not empty. Armed. Minje looked at the door, then back at her. When he spoke, his voice had gone colder. My uncle. Said stared at him. Not because she did not understand the words, because she understood them too well. Her fingers closed around the envelope. Tighter. Every instinct in her body turned toward one command. Run! Minje saw it happen. The shift in her shoulders. The way her eyes measured the door again. The tiny movement of her good hand toward the edge of the bed. No, he said. She froze. Then her chin lifted. I didn't ask permission. You were about to. I was about to leave. That too. She swung her legs over the side of the bed. Pain hit immediately. It showed this time, a sharp pull across her face. Still, she stood. Barefoot, wounded, stubborn enough to make bad decisions look principled. Minje watched her sway once, then steady herself. I just told you your uncle is tied to this, she said. That means I am not safe here. No. He stepped closer. Now it means you are not safe anywhere else. That landed. She hated that it made sense. I don't know you. True. I don't trust you. Also true. Your family may be hunting me. My uncle may be. He held her gaze. My family is more complicated than that. Said laughed once. Dry. Rich people always say that right before disaster. A phone buzzed on the table. Not hers. His. Minje glanced at the screen. Did not answer. That interested her, because powerful men usually wanted to be seen answering powerful calls. He turned the phone face down. Wrong choice. That meant the call mattered. Who was it? She asked. My mother. Will she send flowers or assassins? His expression did not change. That depends on the florist. She stared, then, against her own will, almost smiled. Almost. That annoyed her more than the pain. A knock landed on the door. 3 short taps. His bodyguard stepped inside. No wasted motion, no wasted words. "Sir, the van was dumped near the river." Said went still. Minje noticed. Inside. Nothing useful. Plates swapped. "I'd cabin wiped." The bodyguard paused. "Not fully." Now the room sharpened. "What did they miss?" Minje asked. The man held up a small gold button in a clear evidence sleeve. Not from a driver's jacket. Too ornate. Too expensive. Said looked at it once, and all the colour left her face. Minje caught that too. "You know it." She said nothing. He took the sleeve from the bodyguard, turned the button under the light. A tiny engraved crest. 3 curved lines. A crown shape. Pretty. Meaningless to most people, not to her. Said. Her eyes stayed on the button. "My father had ledgers," she said quietly. "Not just numbers. Names, meetings, descriptions." She swallowed. This crest was in the margin beside one of them. Minje waited. She looked up. The line said, "Korean buyer. Gold crest. Never meets women directly." The bodyguard said nothing. Or Minje said, "And yet they sent men after you." "That means I got closer than they expected." He nodded once, then handed the evidence sleeve back. "Leave us." The bodyguard hesitated. "Sir, security should be doubled." "It will be." When the door shut again, silence came with it. Said sat down slowly this time. Not from obedience, from thought. Minje remained standing. He could feel the room changing around a decision neither of them wanted to admit was already made. "If they found the van," she said, "they can find me." "Yes." "If your uncle recognizes the envelope." "He will." She hated how quickly he answered, because honesty was easier to trust than comfort, and trust was exactly what she had no room for. He picked up her passport from the bed, set it beside the bag, then her phone, then the envelope. One by one. Neat. Controlled. He was arranging the shape of her life in front of her. "This is everything?" he asked. She looked at the small pile, her entire world reduced to paper and battery and blood-stained leather. "Yes." "Good." That one word made her frown. "Good?" "Yes." His eyes lifted to hers. "Because now I know exactly what must move with you." She stared at him. "Move where?" "My place." "No." "Yes." "Absolutely not." "Then choose somewhere safer." She opened her mouth, closed it. He waited, did not rescue her from the answer, because there wasn't one, not a real one. Finally she said, "You do this on purpose." "What?" "Stand there being calm until other people hear themselves losing." Something almost human touched his face. Briefly. "Does it work often?" She looked at the envelope, the passport, the bag, then at the man whose uncle might be hunting her, and who was still somehow the least unsafe thing in the room. It made no sense. That was the problem. "Yes," she said quietly. "It works." His phone buzzed again. This time he looked, and for the first time since she woke, his face changed, only slightly. But enough. "What?" she asked. He lifted his gaze. "My uncle just sent flowers." Said went cold. Flowers. To a private clinic. That meant one thing. He knew exactly where she was. Flowers. White lilies. Too many. They arrived in a black box with no card attached. No name, no message. Only the scent. Sweet. Expensive. Funeral sweet. Said looked at them from the clinic bed and felt her skin go cold. Minje did not touch the box. He called his bodyguard back in with one look. "Take it apart." The man moved instantly. Gloves. Knife. Careful hands. The lid came off. Beneath the flowers sat a second layer. Photographs. 3 of them. Said at the market 2 days ago. Sade outside the archive. Sade standing at a crosswalk in the rain, turning her head like she already felt danger behind her. No note, no threat written out. Nothing so clumsy. The message was cleaner than that. "We see you." Sadie did not move. That scared Minjay more than panic would have. He turned to his guard. "Burn the flowers." "Yes, sir." "The photos, too." The guard hesitated. "Sir?" "I said burn them." When the door shut again, Sade finally looked at him. "Your uncle has style. He has habits. He sends funeral flowers to living women when he wants fear to do the work." She nodded once, as if filing that under things she now knew and wished she did not. Then she reached for her bag, and Minjay stepped forward. "We're leaving." "I assumed." "No police." "I assumed that too." That earned him a look. Sharp, tired, still fighting. Good. He preferred her angry to broken. The private exit was underground. No cameras, no noise. Sade walked on her own until the pain hit halfway down the corridor. Her steps slowed. Minjay noticed. Of course he noticed. He stopped beside her. "Don't." That was all she said. He said nothing, just took the bag from her shoulder before she could protest, and kept walking beside her at her pace. Not ahead. Not behind. The kind of adjustment a person only made when they were already paying too much attention. The car waiting outside was black, silent, untouched by weather. His bodyguard opened the back door. Sade looked at the interior once and laughed under her breath. What? This is the kind of car rich villains confess crimes in. Minjay got in first. Try not to bleed on the leather. That time she did smile, small, against her will. Then the car moved, not toward the river, not toward the center, up, higher, into the part of Seoul where buildings did not ask permission from the sky. Saad watched the city through tinted glass and said nothing for 10 full minutes. Then, "If this is kidnapping, it's very organized. It is not kidnapping. Good. I prefer my crimes named correctly." He looked at her. "There will be staff. That sounds worse. One housekeeper. That sounds survivable." The elevator opened directly into the penthouse. No hallway, no reception. Just stone, glass, silence, and a view so wide it made her chest tighten. The city stretched below them in silver and blue, or the river looked unreal from this height. Saad stepped inside slowly, not impressed, alert. That mattered more. The place was beautiful in the cold way. Too clean, too controlled, like no one had laughed there in years. A woman appeared from the kitchen, older, straight-backed, eyes that missed nothing. She looked at Sade's bandage first, then Minjay's face, then the bag, everything in the right order. Good woman, Sade thought immediately. Dangerous woman, too. Better. "This one stays," the woman said. Not asked. Said. "Yes," Minjay answered. The woman turned to Sade. "I am Mrs. Han. Sit." Sade sat, not because she was weak, because that tone could command weather. Mrs. Han placed soup in front of her. Hot, real, alive with ginger and garlic. Saad blinked once. "You fed me before asking questions." "Mrs. Han's mouth moved almost into a smile. "Questions can wait. Fainting is irritating." Minjay removed his jacket, set Sade's bag on the chair beside her himself. Again. Not far. Not out of sight. She noticed that too. Mrs. Han noticed that she noticed. Interesting. Very. Later, after the soup, after the pain medicine, after Minjay disappeared into a phone call spoken too quietly to hear, Sade went looking for water. The penthouse kept unfolding around her. Long corridor, soft lights, closed doors, a silence too polished to be natural. Then one door stood half open. Blue walls, small bed, books, a stuffed tiger with one ear bent down. No child. The room held its breath around her. Said stepped closer, not touching, just looking. A life had stopped there. She knew that feeling. You should be resting, Minje's voice, low, behind her. She turned. He had loosened his cuffs, one hand still holding his phone, the other empty, his face unreadable again. She looked back at the room. Whose was this? He did not answer at once. That was answer enough. Then, my nephew's. The word landed softly, wrongly. Past tense, hiding inside. Present tense. Said looked at the bent ear of the stuffed tiger, then at him, and asked the question carefully. Is that why this whole house sounds like it's waiting for someone to come back? Minje did not answer immediately. That told her more than words would have. He stood in the doorway of the nursery, with one hand in his pocket, and the other still holding his phone, as if grief had interrupted business, and he resented them both for touching. Said looked back at the bent ear of the stuffed tiger, then at the bookshelf, then at the little shoes lined under the bed. Too neat. Too final. He liked order, Minje said at last. His voice was quiet now, not soft, just further away. My sister said it made him feel bigger. Sade turned fully toward him. Your nephew? Yes. The air in the room changed, not heavy, held, like even the walls knew this was not a place for careless questions. Still, she asked one anyway. Where is he now? Minje's jaw tightened once. Dead. The word landed clean. No decoration, no mercy. Said went still, because some griefs arrived dramatic, and some arrived like this, flat, controlled, deadlier for it. She looked back at the bed. How old? 5. That hurt more than it should have, because children should never be spoken of in past tense. Not at 5. She took one step into the room. Slow. Careful. Well, not because Minje would stop her, because sorrow deserved manners. He slept here. When my sister worked late. A pause. He liked the river view. Said looked toward the window. The city glittered below like it had never buried anyone. What happened? She asked. Minje's gaze moved to the stuffed tiger. Car accident. That was too short, too neat. She heard it immediately. So did he. His mouth hardened. There was rain, he said. A truck, a report, flowers, very efficient condolences. Said looked at him sharply. That was not how grieving people described accidents. That was how suspicious people did. You don't believe it? His eyes came to hers. No. Why? Because my sister argued with my uncle 3 days before she died. The room went colder. Said forgot the pain in her side. And what about? Money. He stepped into the room now. Not far. Just enough that they were inside it together. She wanted access to shipping records. He refused. She kept asking. A beat. Then she died. Said stared at him. And the boy. He was with her. He said it like something he had already punished himself for 1,000 times. Said saw that too. Saw the guilt under the control. The rage under the guilt. That explained things. Not everything. Enough. Minje. He looked at her. She chose her next words carefully. You think your uncle killed your sister? He held her gaze. Yes. No hesitation. No doubt. Just yes. Her breath caught slightly, because once a man believed that about his own blood there was no such thing as family peace left. Only timing. His phone buzzed. Neither of them moved. Then it buzzed again. And again. Minje glanced at the screen. Something in his face shifted. Not surprise. Annoyance. What? He turned the phone over. My mother. That many calls means trouble. It means performance. He walked to the dresser in the nursery and set the phone down beside a framed drawing done in thick blue crayon. 3 figures, 1 large, 1 medium, 1 tiny. A family picture. Something in Sade's chest pulled hard. Minje noticed where she was looking. He drew that the week before. She swallowed. Did you keep everything? Yes. Why? This time he almost smiled. Not because it was funny, because some truths were ugly in plain language. Because throwing away a child's things feels like killing them twice. The words went straight through her. He saw that happen too. Then the phone rang again. This time he answered, listened, and said nothing for 5 full seconds. Then, no. Another pause. His eyes went colder. No. If grandfather wants to see me, he can ask without using the family table like a threat. He ended the call. Sade did not ask. He told her anyway. Dinner tomorrow night. With your family. Yes. And why does that sound like an ambush? Because it is. She folded her arms slowly. Pain pulled at her wound. She ignored it. What changed? Minje looked at the nursery, then at her, then at the phone on the dresser. My uncle saw you at the hotel. A beat. He sent flowers to the clinic. Another beat. Now my grandfather wants to meet the woman who made me ignore an engagement. Said stared at him, then laughed once. Low, disbelieving. Your family moves fast. No. His eyes held hers. They only move fast when they're afraid. And suddenly the dinner did not sound like family curiosity. It sounded like recognition. She was no longer a stranger with a bag. She was a problem they had started measuring. Said stopped laughing first. You are not serious. Minje was already serious. That was the problem. He stepped closer to the dresser, picked up the phone again, set it down again. A man deciding whether to be dangerous politely or honestly. They want to see you. They can want in peace. They won't. Said looked at the nursery door, then at him, then at the city beyond the glass. Too high, too quiet, too easy to forget knives existed down there. I am not going to dinner with the family of a man whose uncle may be trafficking girls through textile routes. That would be a reasonable response. Good. You're still going. She stared. He stared back. For 1 second, neither moved. Then Said put one hand over her bandaged side and said very clearly, No. Minje did not blink. If you stay here, they will search the building harder. I'll hide better. They already know your face. I'll wear a hat. That almost became something in his expression. Almost. Against my grandfather. Yes. No. Said folded her arms. Immediate mistake. Pain pulled. She hid it badly. Minje noticed. Of course he did. You are injured. And still correct. This is not about being correct. It never is with men like you. It is always about control. That landed. His eyes changed. Not anger. Recognition, which was worse. You think I am trying to control you. I think you are used to deciding where danger sits and calling that protection. The room went still. Not because she was wrong, because she was close enough to insult him accurately. Minje moved at last, past her, out of the nursery. She followed because she refused to let the conversation end with his back. The hallway felt colder, larger. He stopped at the bar in the living room, poured water, not whiskey. That told her more than whiskey would have. When he spoke, his voice was low. If I wanted control, Sade, you would not know half of what you know now. She said nothing. He turned, glass in hand. You would be in a secure room, with guards, with no bag, no envelope, no choices. That hit harder than she expected, because it was true. Ugly, but true. He set the glass down untouched. What I am trying to do is move the threat where I can see it. And putting me at your family table helps? Yes. The speed of the answer made her pause. He stepped closer. Because hidden things get hunted. Public things get watched. That was new, not softer. Smarter, he went on. If you stay invisible, my uncle controls the story. If you sit beside me, he loses the right to pretend you are disposable. The word disposable stayed between them. Sade hated it because it was exactly what she had been afraid of becoming. A problem, a witness, a foreign woman who could disappear neatly. She looked away first, toward the river. Lights moving on dark water. What if your family humiliates me? They will. She turned back sharply. He did not soften it. No false comfort. No pretty lies. They will test you, he said. My mother will measure you. My grandfather will dismiss you. My uncle will provoke you. And you? His gaze locked on hers. I will be there. That should not have mattered as much as it did. But it did. Because men promised many things. Presence was rarer. Mrs. Hahn appeared from the kitchen carrying tea. She took one look at both faces and understood the room immediately. Good woman. Dangerous woman. You should wear green, she told Sade. Sade blinked. What? Mrs. Hahn set the tray down. For dinner. Minjay said nothing, which meant this had been decided around her from more than one direction. Sade looked from one to the other. You two are terrifying. Mrs. Hahn nodded once. Yes. Then she left. Sade actually laughed that time. Brief, helpless, wrong moment, real sound. Minjay watched her too closely. She caught that. So that's it, she asked. I become your public guest and everyone behaves? No. His voice dropped. That is when they stop guessing and start moving. The laugh died. There it was. The real thing under the dinner. Not tradition, not appearance. A line. Once crossed, no one could pretend she was random anymore. She would become position, leverage, possibility. Sade looked down at her bandaged hand, then at the envelope on the table, then at Kang Minjay, the cold heir, the grieving uncle, the only man in Seoul who had looked at her danger and not stepped back. If I go, she said quietly, I do not go small. Something shifted in his face. Not surprise, approval. I know. She held his gaze. I am not decoration. No, I am not bait. That one sat harder. He answered anyway. Never. A beat. And then, you will sit beside me because I choose it, not because I offer you up. Silence. Clean. Sharp. Believable. Sade took a slow breath, then another. Fine, she said. Minjay went very still. Fine? She lifted her chin. You want me at dinner? Yes. You want your family to see me? Yes. She met his eyes fully. Then they will. Mrs. Hahn chose the dress without asking. Deep green. Not soft. Not sweet. The kind of green that looked black until light touched it and changed its mind. Sade stood in front of the mirror and stared at herself. The bandage at her side vanished beneath silk. Her braids had been redone. Her mouth looked calmer than she felt. That color is expensive, she said. Mrs. Hahn adjusted one earring. So is disrespect. Tonight they will pay both. Sade looked at her reflection again. Well, not because she liked the dress, because she understood what it was doing. It did not make her gentle. It made her impossible to ignore. That was worse. A knock landed once on the half-open door. Minjay. He stopped in the doorway. Black suit, white shirt, no tie. His face was composed in the way men get when they are closest to violence. Then he saw her properly, and forgot to speak. Only for a second. Still, Sade noticed. Mrs. Han noticed that she noticed. Interesting. Very. Well? Sade asked. Minje's gaze stayed on her face, 1 second too long before dropping, then rising again. It works. She almost laughed. That sounded painful. It was concise. Mrs. Han walked past him on her way out. Don't ruin the girl with that voice tonight, she said. Your family already has enough damage. The door closed. Silence remained. Not awkward, or too aware for awkward. Minje stepped into the room, slowly, as if sudden movement would make honesty harder. You should not stand too long, he said. There it is. What? The emotional illiteracy. That actually pulled something close to a smile from him. Small. Gone fast. But she saw it. And because she saw it, the room shifted. Dangerously. She turned back to the mirror to break whatever that was becoming. What exactly happens at this dinner? My grandfather watches. I assumed. My mother judges. I assumed that too. My uncle smiles. That turned her. What does that mean? It means he is most dangerous when he appears least offended. Said folded her arms. Pain tugged at her side. She dropped them immediately. Minje noticed. Of course. You are still hurt. I am also still going. I know. He came closer. Not close enough to touch, just close enough to lower his voice and make it a matter. They will try to make you explain yourself. To whom? To them, to career, to class, to race, to my life. She held his gaze. And if I refuse? Refuse politely. That made her laugh under her breath. You really were raised in a family of elegant threats. His expression changed slightly. Not everything elegant is harmless. No. She knew that already. He reached into his inside pocket, pulled out a small velvet box, set it on the dresser beside her hand. Saad stared at it, then at him. What is that? Insurance. She opened it. A ring. Not an engagement ring, thank God. A family ring. Dark gold. Old. Beautiful in a cold way. The kind of thing people killed over and still called tradition. Said looked up slowly. No. Yes. No. If you wear it, my grandfather understands that this is not temporary. She shut the box. Immediate. That is exactly why I am not wearing it. Minje did not argue. That made her pause. He only said, Good. Now she frowned. You wanted me to refuse? I wanted to see where you draw the line. And? His eyes met hers. You have one. A beat. That makes tonight safer. Something in her chest moved at that. Not warmth. Something sharper. Respect, maybe. Then his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. The stillness in his face tightened. My uncle, he said. He answered on speaker without warning. The older man's voice arrived smooth as polished stone. Minje, I hear our guest is beautiful. Said went cold. Minje did not look at the phone. He looked at her. She's listening, he said. A pause on the line. Then the uncle laughed softly. Good. Then I will say this clearly. I hope she understands our family values hospitality. Said spoke before Minje could stop her. In Nigeria, she said, voice calm, we also value hospitality. That is why we prefer not to poison the table before dinner. Silence. Then the uncle laughed again. Longer this time. Real amusement. Worse than anger. Well, he said, now I understand the green. The line died. No goodbye. No pretense. Minje slid the phone back into his pocket. The room went very quiet. Said looked at him. What did he mean by that? His gaze stayed on hers. In my family, he said, green is not a color for peace. A beat. It is a color for challenge. Said looked once at the mirror, at the silk, at herself inside it. then back at him. "Good," she said. And Minje, watching her, understood something too late to stop it. He was no longer bringing a guest to dinner. He was arriving with a side. The house was older than the city around it. Not literally, but it felt that way. Stone steps, dark wood, windows too tall for comfort, the kind of place built to remind everyone entering that money had memory and mercy did not. Said stepped out of the car first. Cold air hit her bare shoulders. Minje was beside her immediately, not touching. Close enough that the space around her changed. Bodyguards stayed back. That told her more than their presence would have. This part had to look like family. That made it more dangerous. At the top of the steps, the front doors opened before they reached them. A housekeeper bowed once, then looked at Sade's dress, then at Minje, then lowered her eyes too quickly. Message received. Inside, the house was warm. Too warm, and soft gold lighting, art on the walls, flowers arranged with expensive indifference, everything beautiful, everything watching. "Smile," Minje said quietly. Sade kept walking. "I am smiling." "No, you're not. I am Nigerian. This is one of our smiles." That almost got him again. Almost. They entered the dining room together. Conversation stopped. Not loudly, just died. His grandfather sat at the head of the table, old, straight-backed, hands folded over a cane he did not seem to need. His mother sat to the right. Pearls, silk, a face trained by years of disappointment and expensive skincare. His uncle sat to the left. Of course, smile in place, eyes wrong. Sade felt every look land. Her skin, her mouth, her braids, the fact that Minje pulled out her chair himself. That was the first real blow. Small movement, huge meaning. His mother saw it. So did the grandfather. The uncle's smile thinned by one careful degree. "Grandfather," Minje said. No warmth, just form. "Mother." "Uncle?" Then he sat beside Sade. Not across, not near. Beside. His mother spoke first. "Minje." Her gaze shifted to Sade, then stayed there. "You brought someone unexpected." Sade answered before he could. "I get that a lot." The mother's eyes sharpened. The grandfather did not move. The uncle smiled wider. Interesting. The first course arrived. Clear soup, thin steam, silver spoons. Nobody touched anything. Finally, the grandfather looked directly at Sade. His voice was old and dry, and very used to obedience. "Your name?" "Sade Adebayo." "You are Nigerian?" "Yes." "You are in Seoul alone." Sade picked up her spoon, set it down again. "Not tonight." Minje said nothing. But that silence was support. The grandfather noticed. His gaze shifted to Minje, then back to her. "What do you do here, Miss Adebayo?" "I work with textiles and archive styling." The uncle entered smoothly. How appropriate. There it was. Not the insult. The shape of one. Sade turned to him. "Appropriate for what?" "For finding your way into this house." Minje's glass touched the table. Soft sound, sharp meaning. His uncle saw that too. "Good. Let him." Sade kept her face calm. "In my experience," she said, "houses usually invite their own trouble." The uncle laughed. His mother did not. The next course arrived. Fish. Rice. Something delicate Sade did not trust on sight. His mother finally spoke to her directly. "My son values privacy. He does not bring people here lightly." Sade looked at her. "Then I suppose tonight means something." His mother's mouth tightened. That one landed. Minje reached for his water. Not to drink, just to do something with his hands. His uncle leaned back, studying her openly now. "My nephew has always had a weakness," he said. "He mistakes broken things for obligations." The room changed. No one breathed wrong. No one moved too fast. Said felt Minje go still beside her. Very still. She looked at the uncle, then at her plate, then back at him. "And some men," she said softly, "mistake polished cruelty for intelligence." The mother's fork stopped. The grandfather's eyes lifted fully now. The uncle's smile remained. But only the smile. Nothing behind it stayed warm. Minje turned his head slightly. Not enough for anyone else to notice. Enough for her. A warning. Or maybe admiration? Hard to tell with him. The uncle dabbed his mouth with his napkin. Bold. Said held his gaze. No. Accurate. The silence stretched. Then the grandfather spoke again. Not to her. To Minje. Interesting choice. Minje did not look away from his uncle. Yes. One word. Flat. Final. And Said understood at once what had just happened. This was no longer a dinner. It was a declaration. And everyone at the table knew it. No one spoke for 3 full seconds. That was a long time in a room like this. A servant entered with the next course, saw the faces, froze. Minje's grandfather lifted 2 fingers once. The servant set the plates down and vanished. Good. Let the room stay honest. Said looked at the food. Did not touch it. The uncle did. Calm. Measured. As if he had not just tested her in front of a family trained to cut people quietly. His mother broke first. "Minje," she said, voice smooth and thin. "Your guest is spirited." Guest, not woman, not name. Said heard that. So did Minje. "She has one," he said. The mother's eyes moved to him. "A what?" "A name." That landed harder than it should have, because it was not dramatic, just precise. Saad kept her face still. Inside something shifted, very slightly. The mother turned to her at last. "Miss Adebayo." There. Finally. "You must understand. This family attracts attention. It is not a simple place to step into." Said met her gaze. "I did not come here for simplicity." "No," the mother said. "I can see that." The grandfather lifted his spoon, put it back down. He looked at Said with the dry patience of a man who believed time itself worked for him. "How did you meet my grandson?" There it was. Not curiosity. Placement. A test of story. A test of whether her answer matched whatever version they had already built in their heads. Said opened her mouth. Minje answered first. "I found her injured outside the hotel." His uncle's eyes flickered. Small. Fast. Said saw it. Then the uncle smiled again. "How fortunate," he said. "For both of you." Minje turned his head. "Not much, just enough. Not for everyone." The uncle held his gaze, and something old passed between them. No words. Still. Violent. Said watched that, and understood something that made her pulse kick once hard against her ribs. This had not started with her. She was not the first fracture in this family, just the newest one, standing where everyone could see it. His grandfather spoke again. "To be injured near our hotel is unfortunate. Have the police been useful?" Now the room sharpened. Minje did not move. Said felt it immediately. The trap. If she said yes, questions followed. If she said no, sympathy followed. Both were forms of control. "They were not invited," she said. The grandfather's mouth moved once. Not a smile. Something closer to approval. Interesting. His mother noticed that too, and did not enjoy it. Then the uncle asked the wrong question. "So what is it exactly that you carry, Miss Adebayo, that makes injury find you so easily?" Silence. Beautiful silence. Because now it was naked. No elegance left on it. Just the blade. Said looked at him, then at her water, then back at him. "I think men like you answer their own questions too quickly." The uncle leaned back. "Men like me?" "Yes." Her voice stayed level. Men who ask about consequences before causes. Minja's hand tightened once around his fork. That was all. His mother saw it. The grandfather definitely saw it. The uncle smiled again, but this time it looked harder to wear. You speak as if you know me. Said tilted her head. I know enough to eat carefully. That did it. Minja's mother set her glass down too sharply. This is absurd. No, Minja said. Every head turned. His voice was quiet, which made it worse. This is honest. His mother stared at him. In front of your grandfather? In front of anyone? The room changed then. Not socially, structurally. Something in the balance tipped. His grandfather looked at Minja for a long moment, then at Said, then at the uncle. He said nothing. That was the frightening part. Because powerful old men only go silent when they start rearranging a board in their heads. Finally, the uncle dabbed his mouth and stood. I need air. No one asked him to stay. He walked out slowly. Not rushed, not beaten, but not unchanged either. Said watched him go, then felt it. Minja's hand. Not on hers. Not quite. Just against the side of her chair where her fingers rested. Close enough to steady. Far enough to remain deniable. She looked at him. He did not look back. He was watching the doorway his uncle had just gone through. His voice, when it came, was low enough for only her to hear. He moves when he is angry. Said kept her eyes forward. And now? Minja's jaw hardened. Now he has stopped pretending. This is only dinner. At the head of the table, the grandfather finally spoke. Not to Minja. Not to his daughter. To Sade. Miss Adebayo. She lifted her eyes. Yes. His cane shifted once against the floor. Before this night ends, someone will ask you to leave this house quietly. A beat. Do not. Sade did not look at Minja. She looked at his grandfather. Old eyes, dry voice. That warning had not been kindness, it had been information. Someone at this table was about to make a move. His mother recovered first. With respect, she said. This has gone far enough. The grandfather did not turn his head. Then stop adding to it. That landed harder than anything else all night. Because it was the first time he had checked his own daughter. At the table, in front of Said, his mother's spine stiffened. The servants entered with dessert. No one touched it. The uncle came back in then, smile restored, tie straight, as if he had not just stepped out to cool whatever had almost slipped from him. He sat, looked at Said, then at the grandfather. I seem to have missed something. You usually do, Minja said. The uncle's smile held, but only just. A housemaid moved behind Sade's chair with tea. Her hands were too tight on the tray, too careful. Fear makes people polite in strange ways. The girl leaned in. Miss Adebayo, she whispered, barely moving her mouth. The lady of the house asks if you would join her in the blue sitting room, alone. There it was. Right on time. Said looked up slowly. Minja had heard it too. Of course he had. His mother set down her napkin. Yes, she said. A private word would be best. The grandfather said nothing. That mattered more than if he had. Said glanced once at Minja. He did not speak. Not yet. This was her move. Not good. She preferred it that way. She turned to his mother. With respect, she said, if you have words for me, I think your family has already shown it prefers witnesses. Silence. Clean. Immediate. The maid nearly dropped the pot. His uncle gave a soft laugh. His mother's face changed. Not red. Not dramatic. Colder. That was worse. You are very direct, she said. I was raised to survive conversations. Minje reached for his water then, not to drink, just enough to break the line of attack before it sharpened. My guest stays here, he said. Guest. Again. But the way he said it now was different. Not distance, position. His mother heard that too. So she is your guest now, she said. Minje looked at her. Yes. One word. Heavy. Public. The grandfather finally lifted his spoon and tasted the untouched dessert. Then he said, or to no one and everyone, good. I dislike cowards. The uncle's eyes flicked toward the old man. Just once. Quick. Enough. Sade caught it. The old man was not protecting her. He was watching lines form. That made him dangerous, too. Dinner ended without ending. Chairs moved. Servants appeared. His mother left first, too controlled to slam anything. The grandfather remained seated. The uncle stood and stepped aside with the grace of a man pretending corridors belonged to him. Minje moved around Sade's chair before she could stand fully. Again. That small, deliberate care. Again. Too visible. They stepped into the hallway together. The air outside the dining room felt colder. Looser. Worse. A young servant approached with lowered eyes and a folded cloth in both hands. For the lady, she said softly. Sade took it automatically. A hand towel. Heavy linen, nothing strange, until she unfolded it. A note fell into her palm. One line. Do not go back to the penthouse alone. They already entered it. Her pulse jumped once, hard. Minje saw her face change. He held out his hand. She gave him the note. He read it once, then looked up. Not at her. Down the corridor, at his uncle, who was already watching. Of course. Did you enjoy dinner? The uncle asked. Minje folded the note neatly. Too neatly. Not enough to repeat it. The uncle's gaze drifted to Sade, lingering, insulting, then back to Minje. Careful, nephew. Some women arrive with complications. Sade answered before Minje could. Some men create them and call that sophistication. The uncle smiled. Real this time. Brief. Ugly. Then he said the wrong thing. Your father was difficult too. The world narrowed. Sade went still. Completely still. Minje turned his head slowly. What did you say? The uncle's expression did not change, but he knew. He knew he had stepped on something alive. Minje took one step forward. Only one. It was enough to change the hallway, to make the servants lower their eyes, to make Sade forget the note for 1 second and focus on the fact that if the uncle said one more word wrong, blood would enter this house before midnight. Then Minje's phone buzzed. He looked, read, and his face went cold in a new way. Not family cold, war cold. Sade saw it immediately. What? He lifted his gaze. They didn't just enter the penthouse. A beat. They went into your room and took something. What did they take? Minje did not answer in the hallway. He folded the note once, put it in his pocket, then took Sade's elbow lightly. Walk. Not a request, not fear, urgency. That changed everything. They moved fast, past the servants, past the watching art, past his mother's silence, somewhere behind closed doors. Bodyguards fell in around them before they reached the front steps. No one spoke until the car doors shut. Then Sade turned on him. What did they take? Minje looked at his phone again, read the message a second time. His face gave nothing. Not the envelope? Sade's breath caught anyway. Then what? He didn't answer. Not because he enjoyed suspense, because he was checking something first. He made a call. Mrs. Han. A pause. Are you hurt? Sade went still. The answer mattered. His eyes sharpened. Tell me exactly. More silence. Then, no. Stay there. No one enters your floor again without my voice." He ended the call. Said leaned forward. "But what happened?" "Two men entered through service access." His voice was flat now, useful, flat. "They sedated one guard, avoided cameras for 6 minutes, went straight to your room." "My room?" "Yes." "What did they touch?" "Everything." That landed badly. Said stared at the dark window beside her. The city moved outside like nothing had shifted. But it had. A room was not just a room when you were running. A room was the one place your back unclenched, the one place your bag opened, the one place your life spread out and pretended to be safe. She looked back at him. "And what did they take?" Minje finally met her eyes. "Your notebook." For 1 second she did not understand. Then she did, and all the air left her. Not the envelope, not the passport, not money. The notebook, the cheap one, black cover, bent corner, her father's handwriting in the margins, shipping dates, pattern notes, measurements, things no one should care about unless they knew exactly what they were looking for. Minje watched the realization hit. "You kept the envelope with you," he said. "Smart." Said barely heard him. He knew. "Yes. My father hid the first numbers in the envelope because it looked old. He hid the rest in the notebook because it looked boring." She pressed one hand over her mouth. "Only someone who knew my father would know to take both." Minje said nothing. He did not need to. They were already there. The uncle, the shipping routes, the line at dinner. Your father was difficult too. Saide turned toward him sharply. "He knew him." Minje's jaw tightened. "I think so." "No, not think." Her voice changed. Lower. Harder. "Or he knew him." The car stayed silent after that. Not empty. Working. Said leaned back and forced herself to breathe. 1, 2, 3. Then the next thought arrived. Ugly, fast. He did not take the notebook for what is already in it. Minje looked at her. No wasted expression. "Go on." "He took it because he thinks there is more." That landed. He did not speak for a second. Then, "Is there?" Said closed her eyes. Saw her father at a wooden table in Lagos. Late. Tired. Sketching lines too carefully. Writing numbers where cloth measurements should have been. And once, just once, looking up at her and saying, "If anyone ever steals the book, that means they read badly." Her eyes opened. Minje was watching her. "What did he mean?" he asked. Sadie swallowed. "I thought he meant the codes." "No." She shook her head slowly. "No. I think he meant something else." The car slowed. Not at the penthouse. At a different building. Smaller. Darker. Safer. Minje looked out once, then back at her. "Can you remember?" Said was already halfway there. The bent corner. The black cover. The pages with pattern marks. And one strange detail she had ignored because grief makes obvious things invisible. Inside the back cover, stitched into the seam, there had been a line of thread that did not match the rest. Her whole body went cold. She looked at Minje. He didn't hide the last part in the pages. A beat. He sewed it into the spine. Minje looked at her once, then at the driver. Inside. Now. The building was not one of his family properties. That mattered. No art, no staff, no history. Just concrete, coded doors, and a private floor with 2 rooms, 1 kitchen, and enough security to make silence feel armed. Saad was already moving before the second lock clicked shut. She dropped her bag on the table, pulled the envelope out, shook old papers across the wood, sketches, shipping notes, fabric weights, curved lines that looked decorative until you stared too long. Minje stood opposite her. watching, not interrupting. Good. Her father had hidden things for men who read carelessly. Tonight, careless men were running out of time. He used the same stitch on one of my school uniforms, she said. Minja's eyes stayed on her face. For what? To hide money from my aunt. That almost changed his mouth. Almost. He trusted thread more than drawers. She flattened one of the design sheets, turned it sideways. There, a tiny mark in the corner. Not a number, not a word. A curved needle symbol. Her pulse jumped. He marked the real ones. Minja leaned in. How many? She checked another page, then another. 4. Only 4, all bearing the same tiny symbol. Her father had not hidden everything in one place. Of course he had not. Smart man. Dead men only survive through habits that outlive them. Said lined the 4 sheets together. The pattern lines crossed, broke, met again. A route, not shipping, movement, people, a warehouse, a gallery, a holding address near Incheon, and beneath the last line, hidden in numbers that looked like color codes, one date. Tomorrow night. Minja saw it at the same time she did. He's moving something. Yes. Or someone. The room changed. Fast. Seyde looked up. If he took the notebook, he knows the spine matters. He doesn't know you already remembered. No. A beat. But he'll cut it open tonight. Minja reached for his phone, stopped, thought, then set it down again. That caught her attention. You're not calling anyone. Not yet. Why? His gaze sharpened. Because if my uncle believes he finally has the last piece, he will stop cleaning and start moving. That was worse, which meant it was better. Seyde understood immediately. You want him comfortable. I want him visible. He picked up one sheet, then another, arranged them in silence. The coded route now obvious once the pages sat together. A map hidden inside beauty. Her father would have liked the cruelty of that. Minja made one call, only one. No names, no wasted words. Prepare customs, cybercrime and financial crimes together. Quietly. I want sealed warrants ready for release in 90 minutes. No family channels. No internal counsel. He listened. Then, yes, I am certain. He ended the call. Saad stared at him. That was fast. I've been waiting years to be certain. There it was. Not anger, not revenge. Permission. Something old in him had just stood up. She watched him move around the room. Jacket off, cuffs loosened, phone in one hand, the other flattening papers like he could press chaos into cooperation through force alone. Then he stopped, looked at her, and the next question came from somewhere quieter. Can you do one more thing tonight? She held his gaze. What? Stay behind me when this starts. Seyde exhaled once through her nose. There he is again. Who? The man who mistakes instructions for reassurance. That time he did smile. Small. Tired. Real. Then it vanished because his phone lit up. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. The uncle's voice arrived smooth and pleased. Nephew. Minja said nothing. The older man continued. I've spent all evening admiring how badly grief damages judgment. Seyde went still. The uncle knew, or thought he did. You invited a wounded woman into the center of your house, he said. You should never bring evidence closer to hungry people. Minja's face did not move. Are you confessing to theft? A low laugh. I'm thanking you. The line crackled softly. Then, by midnight, what her father hid will belong to me. Seyde spoke before Minja could stop her. No. Silence. Small. Sharp. The uncle recognized her voice immediately. Ah, he said softly. The difficult daughter. Said stepped closer to the table, to the papers, to the truth. My father hid things for men smarter than you. The uncle's tone cooled. Did he? Yes. She looked at Minje once, then back at nothing and everything. He hid the end where only patient people would find it. A beat. You were never patient, just cruel. The silence on the line changed. This time the uncle had nothing elegant ready. Good. Minje reached for her hand under the table. Only once. Only for a second. Enough. Then he spoke. Midnight, uncle? Yes. Minje's eyes went flat. Good. Stay exactly where you are. He ended the call. Seyde's heart was beating hard now. Not from fear, from movement. This was it. No more dinners, no more flowers, no more hidden rooms. Minje gathered the 4 pages, slid them into a folder, then looked at her with that terrible, steady calm she had first seen in the rain. When this door opens, he said, my family changes. Seyde looked at the folder, then at him, then placed her hand over his. Not soft, certain. Good, she said. Outside, somewhere deep in the city, old money was still sleeping, for another few minutes. No, that was only the opening of chapter 12. Here's the rest to the ending. By 11:42, the convoy was moving. No sirens, no family cars, no company plates. Minje sat beside Sade in the back seat, with the folder on his knee and his phone dark in his hand. He had stopped checking it. That was when she knew the waiting part was over. You're very calm, she said. No. He looked out at the passing bridges. I am very finished. That was different. She felt it. The city thinned, warehouses took over, wet concrete, metal fencing, the kind of places built for goods, not people, which meant people were always hidden there anyway. The first checkpoint had no official guard booth, just 2 men smoking under a floodlight. Minje's driver did not slow. The gates opened before they reached them. Seyde noticed that. You've been here before? Yes. How many times? Enough to hate the smell. The second gate was deeper in. Inside, cranes stood like dead birds. Containers lined the yard in rows, too neat to trust. Minje's men split without being told. Seyde stayed beside him, like promised, like instructed. Not because she was weak, because now she knew what war cost when pride tried to improvise inside it. They entered through a side door. No alarms, no panic. That was worse. Either the uncle felt safe or wanted witnesses. The main floor opened below them. Crates, rolls of imported fabric. Wooden frames marked as gallery cargo, and under all that, movement. Men. More than 5, less than 20. Enough. At the center stood Minsok. No jacket now, sleeves rolled, tie loosened. A man prepared to handle dirty things personally. On the table beside him sat Sade's notebook. Cut open, spine split, thread hanging from it like exposed veins. Her stomach turned. He looked up and smiled. There you are. Minje did not answer. Seyde did. You read badly. The uncle's smile sharpened. Not badly. Late. He lifted a small strip of paper between 2 fingers. Tiny. Folded. The thing from the spine. Her father's last, hidden line. Minje's body changed instantly. Not bigger. Still, the kind of stillness that comes right before impact. Minsok saw it and enjoyed it. Too much. He looked at Sade. But your father was annoyingly clever. She wanted to kill him for the word annoyingly alone. Instead, she kept her face cold. What did he cost you? That landed. The uncle let the paper fall back to the table. Time. A beat. Money. Another. And discretion. Minje stepped forward once. Enough. The uncle laughed softly. No, not yet. Then he tapped the table beside the cut notebook. and 4 men brought someone in. Mrs. Han, alive, bound, angry, not afraid. Sade's breath caught. Minje's did not. That was the frightening part. He only said, "You made a mistake." The uncle smiled. "Yes. I expected grief. I forgot loyalty." Mrs. Han lifted her chin. "Your father would be ashamed of your face," she said, even tied to a chair. Even now. Sade loved her immediately and more. The uncle looked bored. Then he nodded. One man moved toward Mrs. Han. Minje's phone buzzed once. One short vibration. He looked down, only for a second, then back up, and Sade understood. That was the signal. Warrants live, doors sealed, police moving. The uncle saw none of it. "Good. Let her go," Minje said. Or, it came out almost playful. Minje's answer did not. "Or tonight becomes the last smart thing you ever misjudge." Minsuk reached for the strip of paper. Minje moved. Fast, not wild, exact. 1 second he was standing beside Sade. The next he had crossed the distance between them and the table and driven his uncle's wrist down hard enough to crack wood. The paper slipped. Sade was already moving. Not away. Forward. She snatched the strip off the table just as the first gun came up. Then everything broke. Shouting. Metal. A shot into the ceiling. Then Minje's men came through 2 side entries at once. Not police uniforms. Private team first. Containment first. Arrest second. Mrs. Han kicked the chair backward into the knees of the man behind her. Legend. Sade reached her in 3 strides, cut the wrist ties with the broken metal edge from the split notebook cover, and pulled her down behind the crates. "You all right?" Mrs. Han glared at her. Obviously not. Good. Still herself. Across the floor, Minje had his uncle against the table. No theatrics, no speeches. Just one forearm across the older man's throat and one hand pinning him in place while chaos folded around them. The uncle still found breath to laugh. "You think this ends with paper?" Minje leaned closer. No. His voice was low enough that only the men nearest him heard. "It ends with names." That was when the outer doors crashed open. Police, financial crimes, customs enforcement. A prosecutor in a dark coat with fury already prepared. The warehouse flooded with authority so fast, the men inside barely had time to choose whether to surrender or die stupid. Sade unfolded the paper strip with shaking fingers. Not account numbers, not routes, names, 12 of them, politicians, shipping brokers, gallery owners, 2 police contacts, 1 judge. At the bottom, written smaller than the rest, 1 more line in her father's hand. "If my daughter finds this, trust the one who stands beside you when they start smiling." For 1 second, the warehouse sound went strange. Far away. Then Minje looked at her. Not at the paper. At her face. And knew. He crossed to her while officers dragged his uncle away, shouting threats that sounded smaller now. Sade held out the strip. Minje read the final line. His eyes lifted slowly. Mrs. Han saw his face and looked away with the tact of an empress. Sade swallowed. He wrote that before he died. Minje folded the paper once, carefully, like it mattered more than all the rest. "Then your father had excellent timing." A laugh broke out of her before she could stop it. Wrong place, wrong hour. Real anyway. The kind that comes when terror finally realizes it has lost. And Minje, covered in dust and fury and the last ashes of his family war, looked at her like he had just been handed back something he had not expected life to return. The arrests took 3 days. The headlines took 5. The old money families took longer. They always did. As Minsuk's empire cracked open in layers, trafficking routes, art laundering, textile fronts, political favors, Every name her father hid became a door someone could no longer keep closed. Minje testified once, only once. Calm, precise, uninterested in drama. That made the damage worse. His mother left the main house. His grandfather sent no apology, only a box. Inside it sat the green ring she had refused. No note. Good. No note meant respect in that family. Sade returned it, also with no note. Better. Mrs. Hahn approved, which was the only family review that counted anymore. A week later, the penthouse smelled different. Still clean, still quiet, but alive now. Windows open, tea on the table, music low from somewhere Sade could not find. She stood in the nursery doorway one more time. The bent-eared tiger still sat on the shelf, but the room felt less trapped now, less like grief had locked it. Minje came up behind her. You came back here on purpose? Yes. Why? She touched the doorframe lightly. Because I wanted to see if it still felt like waiting. And she turned. It feels like memory now. He looked at the room, then at her, then nodded once. That cost him something. She saw it. And because she saw it, she stepped closer. Not rushed, not shy, just certain. Your nephew would have liked Mrs. Hahn, she said. He feared her, as all wise children do. That got the smallest smile. There. Gone. Still hers to notice. He looked down at her, the city behind him, the late afternoon cutting gold across his face. No sirens now, no blood, no folders, just him, which was somehow more dangerous. I have spent most of my life, he said, mistaking control for safety. Sade waited. He was doing this without armor. That mattered. You made that impossible. She breathed once, slowly. Good. His hand came up then, not sudden. Never sudden. The back of 2 fingers brushing her cheek first. A question. Always a question with him where softness was concerned. She leaned into it. That was answer enough. He kissed her once. No performance, no witnesses, no crisis forcing truth into the room. Just a man who had stood beside her when smiling men turned cruel. Just a woman who had stayed. When he pulled back, her forehead rested against his for one quiet second. Then she said, because she was still herself, and someone had to keep things from becoming too beautiful to survive. So. He opened his eyes. So, when do I get the normal date you promised me? This time the smile stayed. Small. Real. Tonight. The restaurant sat above the water. String lights, grilled fish, no bodyguards visible, which meant they were hidden extremely well. Sade chose not to argue with that. The river moved below them in long black silk. Seoul glittered like a city pretending innocence. Minje poured tea, not because a server had failed, because he noticed her cup was low before she did. She watched him do it, then smiled. What? I was just thinking. Dangerous. Yes. She took the tea. Love looks very domestic on you. He looked at her over the rim of his glass. And on you? She leaned back, thought about Lagos, rain, knives, old paper, nurseries, fire, green silk, a warehouse, a hand finding hers under a table, then answered honestly. It looks like staying. The air between them shifted. Still. Warm. Final in the quiet way. Minje reached across the table, turned her hand over in his, pressed one kiss to her knuckles. Reverent. Unhurried. Then he said the thing that had already become true. Stay with me, Sade. She looked at him for a long second. At the man who had found her in the rain. At the man who had not once asked her to become smaller to make him comfortable. At the man who had learned, finally, that protection and tenderness did not have to be enemies, and smiled. I was planning to. His laugh was quiet, real, there at last, the kind of sound a house waits years to hear again. Down by the river, the city kept moving. Old fires died. New cases opened. Healing stayed slow. Nothing became simple. But his hand remained in hers. And for two people who had learned to survive before they learned to trust, that was more than enough. It was a beginning.